What's going on, everyone? We just wanted to take a second to thank you for all your support so far. It means the world to us. Also wanted to give a special shout out to our partner and friends at Mahon River Farm. They are your local source of pasture-raised poultry. Make sure to give my buddies Alex and Tom a call and arrange a time to check out their farm and pick up some meat for the freezer. No steroids, no hormones, just all natural chickens. Give them a follow on Facebook and tell them we sent you. Next shout out goes to the Hometown Advantage podcast. They're a big supporter of this show. They're your local sports podcast here in Cecil and Hartford County, shining light on all the youth athletics and high school athletics in this area. So make sure you give them a follow on Spotify, like them, rate them, download them. Also hit them on YouTube and give them a like and a subscribe over there and help those guys grow. Thanks for tuning in to the Upper Bay Podcast. What's going on, everybody? It's the Upper Bay Podcast. You can find us on Spotify and YouTube. Give us a like, rating, download, subscribe, do all the things. We got Mr. Bo back in the house for round 2. Got Mason here, and we got Mr. Jason Bradford. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, glad to have me. Thanks for having me, guys.
Man. So you and Bo were out in, is it Springfield, PA? It's the Poconos, right?
Yeah, it was not. So it was Seven Springs.
Seven Springs. Sorry, I thought Springfield.
It's in Somerset County, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yep, and it's about 5 hours from here.
Yeah. So you guys were up there doing the Total Archery Challenge. So for people that may not know, just describe a little bit what that is exactly.
Yeah, so the Total Archery Challenge is it's not a scored event. So you can go up there with your family, with your buddies, and basically go shoot the event, and it goes from Thursday to Sunday.
Gotcha.
So you could shoot every day. It's a very challenging event. That's why they call it the challenge, Total Archery Challenge. And basically you shoot, each course will have 25 targets.
Okay.
And the range is, like, I have this card here for descriptions, there's 9 different courses.
Okay.
And they could range from 15 to 60 yards, 25 to 75 yards, and then you could even have some courses like the prime course that is an average of 60 to 120 yards.
Wow.
With a bow.
Right. Did you guys shoot all 4 days?
We did. So we shot Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Saturday did 2 courses. Thursday, Friday, we just did a course.
Gotcha.
A day. We got there later Thursday.
So how many arrows did you lose / break?
Jason did the best out of everybody.
With like minimal amount best?
I didn't lose an arrow.
Wow.
I missed.
I think you missed twice.
3 targets I missed.
Yeah. I know you had excuses for 2 of them.
I have excuses for all of them. No, honestly, I mean, it's very challenging. I broke some, some tips got bent, stuff like that. And then you go down, the real fun of the event is what they call the novelty shoots.
Okay. So
you basically go down to where they have all the vendors, and there are probably 100 vendors down there.
It's so badass.
And they have all these, Siccas there, Yetis there, all the camo companies. Lancaster sets up a booth there for folks that need more arrows.
Right.
But the novelty shoots are basically where you go shoot steel targets or super far. Like the best one there is a caribou target at 112 yards straight uphill, and if you cleanly hit the 12 ring, which is $50 size, coin. If you hit that cleanly, you get entered to win this truck. And it is like a fully loaded truck. They call it Total Archery Challenge truck.
Clean means your arrow cannot touch the line at all.
Right.
Inside out.
So that one you have to pay per arrow, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's like $15 an arrow. And guys will go up there and be like, if you do 10 arrows, they give you your 11th arrow free.
Gotcha.
And it was back in 2019, I believe. or no, 2020, one of those years, I'd met a guy there. We were talking about sick deer hunting, and we were all shooting for the truck thing. And well, he had like 2 arrows left, and he was dialed in. I mean, he was more dialed than anybody there shooting. And I'd kind of made a thing. He wanted to go sick deer hunting so bad. I said, listen, if you hit this thing and win the truck, you bring that thing down to the Eastern Shore, we'll go sick deer hunting. Well, wouldn't you know it? He won that damn truck. And then he came down. I was not able to go with him, sadly, but gave him a lot of intel and background information and kind of some, tips on how to hunt them.
Right.
Well, not only did he come down to sick deer hunt, well, on his very first sick deer hunt, he comes down and he smokes a 4-point.
Oh, wow. That guy's lucky, man.
He also just won the huge $25,000 award for first form pro staff. So he just won that too. We always tell him he's got that golden horseshoe.
Heck yeah, he does.
And but the novelty shoots are really fun. Our good buddy Mike, he did some arrows and was shooting, and it was kind of all over the place. And we're like, man, he shot so good this whole time. And he had his last arrow, and he was hitting close.
Right.
And he had his last arrow, and right before he was getting ready to draw back, they stopped the shooters, and they said, well, we got to clean up down here on the left. And he gets out of his rhythm.
The whole way on the whole left side is people just practicing. So there's 3D targets all uphill, and
gotcha.
So when they're out there, we can't shoot. So
right.
Everyone cleans up at the same time.
Yeah, so they stop it, and Mike's kind of let down. He puts his head down. I was like, buddy, you got this, man. Just shoot, just hit that thing, would you? And his last arrow, he dunks it, dunks it right in the center of this 12 ring. It was we were so excited.
That's got to be the best feeling ever to hit that thing.
Before that, there was so some of the entries for these targets out there on that raffle thing were free. You didn't have to pay for them.
Okay.
And there was one that was 35 yards, and when you say steel target and you have to shoot a 1-inch, like you can only fit an arrow through it, right?
That was a 1-inch circle.
1-inch circle
at 35 yards, and it was tiny.
Dude, it was tiny.
I need like an 8-inch circle.
If you miss
at
it,
35
if
yards.
you miss it, you're blowing up an arrow. There's no way around it.
Right.
So that's a chance you take. And his very first time up there, this was before the caribou. He goes up there and boom, hits it right in there.
Wow. Mike did. So he just smokes this 1-inch circle and won a dozen of those ultra arrows, those new ultra arrows.
Like, all right,
okay,
time for the caribou.
So the novelty shoots, you're shooting for prizes the whole time.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything. There's like African hunts. There's free Under Armour clothing. There's free Yetis. There's
targets.
You name it. Turtle box speakers. I mean,
that's awesome. And multiple people can win. Or is that like
a lot? Yeah. Well, really? I think a lot now. Like that weekend, I think it's just get entered. So like in that particular target, the one I was just talking about. So if you get it in that hole, you immediately win 12 arrows. So several people can do that.
Right.
Or you can shoot at the 4-inch hole above it and get entered.
Gotcha.
So not all the targets are like that.
Let me put it this way: the easier the shot, you get entered.
I got
in this stuff, right?
Yeah, but if you smoke it, then you immediately win. So yeah, I guess multiple people can win.
Yeah, potentially.
So did you guys win anything?
No, sadly not.
So I did the steel target right after Mike, and dude, I come really close, but that was just luck. But I had like six or 7 arrows left, and they were set up for attack. I wasn't going to hunt with them, and probably just going to get I already immediately said to myself, I'm just going to get new arrows for next year when I do it. So I was like, let's blow these bitches up.
Oh, yeah, and he blew every one of them.
Boom. But dude, like my first 2 arrows, like there was one dude sitting next to me. He was sitting there, he was like, you were so close. I'm like, well, I got 6 more tries.
Send another one. And I've been doing this for like 6 years. I've been going up to this shoot, and it's so much fun.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not doing these novelty shoots. I know how well, after watching Bo, I was like, I got these 3 arrows that are bent up. I'm going to send it. You just have to.
I mean, yeah, you're up there.
What I should have done was at least, because I I was feeling pretty on. I should have just tried getting one to get entered and then tried shooting.
Or just try the other 10 novelty shoots.
or that.
Is the caribou the farthest one? Is that an uphill shot too?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Straight
pretty
up.
much all the everything was uphill. Them dudes that were shooting the practice targets to the left of us, and they're shooting all that stuff that was up to 100 yards. All that's uphill. When you go get your arrow, you're walking all the way uphill. Dude, that whole thing was badass. Like you had to be, like I wasn't in shape for it. I was all right, but even just practicing,
Right.
That comes back to being prepared, kind of know what you're getting into, and I think the biggest thing is, a lot of folks from the East Coast that are used to shooting flat ground, backyard, let me go shoot 30, 40, 50, 60 yards, what we always do.
Right.
You wouldn't be prepared for this.
Right.
You gotta have what they call a third axis, which is a little bubble level on your sight. You got to have all that take into consideration, because you shoot a lot of side hill shots.
Okay.
So you could be shooting an uphill, but it also be on a side slope. So you'll be standing with your right foot lower than your left foot, shooting on this angle.
not comfortable.
And these are the most difficult shots, and it's all based on Western hunting, like elk hunting and up in the mountains. And so if you don't have your gravitational pull, if you don't have everything lined up so that when you do release that arrow and your bow falls downhill with gravity, you'll miss that whole target because of that. And
Because it happened to me a few times.
Me too.
Like especially even your close stuff, like your 40-yard stuff. Jason, because there was a lot of times I was shooting left or right, and I'd ask those guys, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And they're like, you watching your bubble? And I'm like, no. Because like the first few courses we did wasn't really like that. And then the third day we started getting to that terrain where it really mattered. So you would be at full draw and feel completely comfortable. And then they'd be like, look at your bubble, and your bubble's maxed out on one side. And when you go to straighten it, you don't feel comfortable.
So your bow will it'll be like
so
this
bad.
when you're shooting.
Right.
But it feels so comfortable.
It doesn't feel comfortable at all, but it will produce a perfect shot. And then you've got all the limbs and the trees and all your arrow flight to take into consideration. I mean, they make it real. It's a challenge. I mean, they make it really tough.
So cool.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just gonna say I've tried to sign up several years, and every time I do, it's always sold out. But it's probably a good thing, because I would literally just show up with my 3-pin trophy ridge out to 40 yards and my 6 hunting arrows and be like, "Let's do this."
That's the biggest thing about this, and even talking about it, because we want to promote it because get lots of people involved, because it's a super fun event. The biggest thing is just they have videos out there that I even shared with Bo and some of the other newcomers that they could watch, and it gives you a really good preparation on.
Right.
You need a good pair of hiking boots that are waterproof. They don't have to be, but you're going to go through some wet terrain or mud, and you're definitely going to go through mud.
Dude, it's actually pretty dangerous. Like there was some stuff where it just constantly stays wet.
Right.
And you're going down like
a mountain,
whatever.
You're going down a mountain
degree angle it is. You're going down, and you're sliding the whole time. And there's rocks everywhere.
Right.
Like it's legit with your bow, with your harness, with your pack and everything.
So you take a backpack, because you got to have you're in it. 25 targets doesn't sound like a lot, but you'll do that for 3 hours.
Walking 100 yards to get to a target.
You go up a hill to 100 yards, and then you go to the next target. And that shot could be 80 yards downhill, and you'll go down 80 yards, and then you'll come back up that 80 to go to the next target. So it has some physical aspects to it as well.
Did you find yourself getting the targets out of breath and like having to calm yourself down?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The nice thing is you're usually waiting at each target, so you'll get that little bit of downtime.
Right.
I pushed Bo and a couple of the guys like, hey, this is real scenario, like that elk's coming, like you're out of breath, like draw it back, let's get you dialed and shoot, because that's real life scenarios.
Yeah, that's like those are the scenarios that like Cam Haynes always talks about. Like that's why he trains so hard, because of all of these exact situations that you're putting yourself in.
It is probably the most perfect training for you to get ready to go on an elk hunt.
Right.
I've been elk hunting, and I told those guys kind of a scenario on my first drawback on a big bull that I didn't end up getting a shot on him because there just wasn't an ethical shot.
Right.
But he was 36 yards. And I saw his big old nose is bigger than these microphones, you know. And he's staring right at me, and I just had all this deadfall in front of me. But if you want to talk about being out of breath, if you go to the gym and do 20 burpees and just nonstop as hard as you can, and then get up and you have that real heavy pounding in your temples and just completely wasted of energy, that's how I was at full draw on that elk. And I wanted it so bad to happen.
Right.
I'm going to tell you what, I don't think you can be prepared for the West.
Right.
Like, I think you could go out there and get raised by the grizzly bears, and you're still not going to be prepared for what the ever-changing weather and just the environment, the elevation. Like, even if you are raised out there, like, you could still be acclimated, but it's different.
Yeah, I got two things, but that's where, like, a lot of people that on their first go round, like what you're saying is like you wanted it to happen so badly, even though it wasn't the right shot. Like, a lot of people in their head be like, I think I could squeeze it through there, you know, and they'll try and take that shot, you know, and try to just kind of force it. And that has to do with because they're amped up, they're out of breath, everything's happening, it's exciting, and, you know, and
but
really
you got to dial yourself into the respect of the animal, because I had done tack years prior and knew how to make a good shot in limbs or in trees, but I'm telling you, it was thick.
It's you're so mind fucked when you come up to when you come up to a target and all you see is leaves or branches, and then you just see the vitals at 60 yards away through all these woods, and you just have to pretend that it's not there, even though it's impossible to, and just hold it steady. And here's the other thing: when you get to 60 plus yards, I mean, hell, even 50 plus yards, if you punch the trigger, if your level's not right, if you're accidentally torque a little bit, if you're for whatever reason relax too much or pulling too much, dude, that arrow at a distance like that is just not going to go where you want it to. So that's what makes the whole thing so cool. There's so many more things at this event that made you really appreciate shooting a bow versus in your backyard. We've all done it. We've all felt like we were so freaking dialed in the backyard, flat, 35 yards. Maybe we step up on our patio and shoot down. Dude, you ain't shit.
Right.
Because when you go out there, you're like, this is it's a whole new world. Our very first target that we shot, our very first course, was a 92-yard Sasquatch. I ain't shot 92 yards at anything ever. I'm gonna be honest, dude. Oh, and the wind was whipping from the left.
It was a full
so we're
value.
like, okay, we're all wanting to shoot at the chest. So we're like, okay, let's aim for like the left titty or something like that,
Right.
And
aim for them titties, baby.
I think there was a first group.
No, there was two groups in front of us.
Yeah.
And everybody missed. And we're shooting, didn't even hit this Sasquatch. And this thing's 8 foot tall, probably 5 foot wide. It's massive when you get up to it. But that wind was blowing so hard, and at 92 yards, I mean...
Dude, we were the first group that all of us went...
Yeah, we did all hit it. It was pretty awesome.
If I ever went to this event, 100% I'm coming back, and I'm launching one all the way across a cornfield.
Oh, yeah.
I got full confidence.
Your confidence levels are
range that thing.
high.
Oh, I got this.
With a lighted knock. That'd be so badass.
Yeah.
How many arrows did you guys take?
I took 16 arrows.
I did too.
That's it?
Yeah.
Wow.
They say to take 2 dozen, but the whole thing is, if you go up there and you're somewhat prepared and you're able to shoot out to say 100. Now the nice thing is you can walk up. Like, if you can't shoot from the cone, they tell you to walk up to where you're comfortable.
Kind of get like a handicap.
Nobody does that.
Right.
The kids, yes, but there's this thing about us hunters or even people that like to shoot bows. They just don't do it. They are going to make the attempt.
You also don't want to be that one guy in your group that's like, I'm going to scoot up on this one.
We've had guys and friends with us that are just, they get into a rut, they're not comfortable, and we're like, just don't take the shot.
Yeah.
Man.
Right.
Like, just
few
relax. We're here to have a good time.
Right.
We're here to have fun. I mean, and like, everything's a competition with your buddies. You're all out there to have a good time, but you do.
I felt like we had no competitiveness.
There wasn't. No.
Which was
we
cool.
had a
Like you
good time.
can get a score sheet with your group, can't
Look
you?
at it's right here. We all had it, and there was not
Yeah, we never even bothered it. I mean, it'd be
No
cool,
way.
but at the same time, that's where some people get a little bit
You get
upset.
the competitive
Right.
archers.
You don't want that, especially like we were enjoying ourselves so well, and then if you miss, like I missed 2 or 3 targets in a row on the very last course, and I wasn't mad at myself, but I was like, okay, what the hell's going on? That's when I realized you guys told me you need to start adding 2 yards
Yeah.
at your 50 plus, because I don't know if it was just shooting so many arrows, the elevation that we were in, walking around,
You could
things
add a
getting
little
bumped around.
string stretch.
String
even.
stretch.
I mean,
Dude, I was missing a foot low on every target, even the ones that were close. I was hitting low, and remember, I finally started hitting where I wanted to when I started adding the yardage on. Like,
you were blowing them out. Bo, for the first time, I will say this: I got to give Bo some props. I mean, I've went up there with a lot of first timers, even my first time doing the event, and Bo blew everybody that I've ever been with on their first time. Even my first time up there, he blew it away. I mean,
I
he
appreciate
had
it.
shot. Yeah, dude,
I think I was the only one
you were
that
dialed.
didn't
wonder
miss the
kid.
target for the first 2 courses that we did. But then when we did there's a one course called the Rocky Mountain Foundation. It's all elk targets and everything. What was it? 50 was their closest one, but there was a lot of 80, 90, 100. I think 110 yarder.
It's 50 to 110 yards on this card.
And when you're sitting there launching and up and down hill, of course, like we talked about, and I was struggling a little bit on that course, and then we did the hardest course, which was the prime course, which was everything. The physical aspect, the level. I mean, that one was tough. Your sticks in the way. Our very last 2 targets. The second to last one was a 114 yard moose, and then we went and had to shoot a mule deer, a small mule deer at 107, 104, something like that.
Both straight up.
Those are the last 2 targets on this course, and you were walking all the way uphill to get your one arm, walking all the way down and shooting, and it was. I'll tell you one thing that the other thing that was that came into effect with me missing arrows. The first 2 days I was really like trying to have the same exact routine, pull my bow back, getting set, coming down on it, and relaxing. The very last 2 courses on the last day, I was finding myself just pull back and getting on it because I was so comfortable with myself. I was confident without really realizing it, and that threw me off big time.
Yeah.
Not having the same routine.
Yeah. I got to imagine, too, like, now that you've done that, shooting in your backyard, it's going to be just like, you're just going to hit bullseyes every time, no problem,
I would think so. I actually haven't shot my bow since I came back. But that's because Jason lended me his, what was it?
An HHA site.
Yeah, so I'm going to get into that, but how many arrows did you bring? Did you take
I brought
with?
16.
You took 16?
And I never lost one until the last day, and I think I lost 8
And are you...
the last day.
Were you specifically building for this event?
So a lot of guys, we do. I have a heavy hunting arrow, and I like that for penetration purposes,
Right.
And for tack, I feel like you're shooting these longer distances, so you could shoot a little lighter arrow with a little bit of a smaller vein that gives you better clearance for your sight clearance. When you're dialing that thing all the way, mostly everybody uses a dial sight.
Right.
So a lot of guys do, though, use their hunting arrow that they will be hunting with. Because, again, you go out west, you hunt antelope, you hunt mule deer, you hunt elk, moose, caribou. You're taking, 60-yard shots and being very comfortable and knowing that you can kill an animal like that. Around here, you're not doing that. I don't think you're shooting a whitetail.
Building arrows,
past 50.
you can get pretty technical for that. For what we did with building arrows, like thinking about the drag that your certain veins are using, the weight of your arrow, GPI, length, diameter. Like you were shooting a micro diameter. You were shooting a 4mm, weren't you?
Well, I shoot those Easton Axis 4mm.
Right.
They're actually called a long range.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah,
But a lot of guys have been really looking towards using those, or have been using those for hunting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was something. I don't know if it was Chuck Adams or who, but I'll talk more about Chuck here in this podcast a little bit. But
yeah.
that micro diameter arrow, being you get them a little heavier, they're passing through
right.
stuff.
The whole arrow building thing, that's a whole other side of hunting.
It's
that
crazy.
People do not realize. Like,
oh yeah,
because like even like me, like I'm not into the arrow building, so like I just buy my hunter gold tips and
right. That's what I shot down there
with my 100
gold
grain
tips.
broadheads and all that. But like my buddy Kenny, who like he's a gun nut, right? So he loves building guns. So when it came to hunting, like the arrow thing like was really attractive to him, like dialing in all the adding the weights and the diameter of the arrows and the spine and it's crazy.
And it's like out there at that distance, you don't want your arrow to nosedive at a certain distance.
You don't want them having a huge arc either. Like you want a nice flat, fast arrow.
So I noticed like the arrows that I was using, I definitely had more of an arc than the rest of the guys. Their arrow, like when mine, I could shoot and just see my thing, whoop,
right.
Where theirs were more like, there was a lot less arc in their arrows. But the other thing was it you or Mike that had the rangefinder where when you put it up, it's got a red level. And it shows the arc of what your arrows do.
Yeah, there's technology out there now that basically when you will tune your rangefinder to your bow and your arrows. My SIG does it, but the one he has actually gives you a line that shows you your arc clearance for your arrow.
Okay.
So if you're shooting 60 yards and your arc of that arrow, it'll show you a line that you can't go above that.
Gotcha.
Right, whatever
branches coming across.
There's anything under that red line, it's going to be in the flight of your arrow.
Wow. And are you plugging in your arrow information into that to tune it? Okay.
Correct. Your arrow speed at the end of the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot goes into it.
A funny note.
I'm glad I haven't gone. I'm not prepared.
Hey, a funny note here. About 60% of the targets, I'd have to get someone else to range for me because my short ass couldn't see the. I was picking up all the leaves in front of the target.
Yeah. Well, then
I'd be like, I'm getting 25, and they're like, well, that's 60.
Well, then you had Mark. He's 6'5".
Yeah, dude.
So when he would shoot, he was hitting stuff that wasn't even in our line of sight. Up high.
Right. Yeah, that screwed him a few times.
Yeah, sure did.
Mike one time got down on his knees to take a shot because of how it was. Mm-hmm. And so you come up to a cone. I don't know if it's the left or right that you're supposed to sit on it, but very, very rarely there's an option anywhere else around that cone for you to make a better shot. So a lot of times we'll kind of come up and we'll be like, how the hell are we going to do that? And kind of look around on the side.
Right.
Well, I guess this is it.
Yeah, as long as you're standing like right there at the cone, you could be to the right of it, to the left of it, behind it, and make whatever you think's the best shot, Right. And then everybody, someone will shoot it better, and you're like, well, I'm going to try that too.
Right. Have you found that in all the years that you've done it? So has every year that you've gone, has it been to the same place?
Seven Springs. Yep. And PA.
Has it gotten, and have any of the years been easier or more difficult? I'd imagine like if we had a real wet spring, it would green up a lot more than.
Oh yeah. I've shot out of state. I've shot Vermont. I've shot Tennessee, and I've shot South Dakotas. But Seven Springs is one of my favorites personally. I want to go out west and shoot the Montana or the Utah shoot.
Have you done the Vermont?
I've done the Vermont.
You have?
Yeah,
Is it
it's
good?
so buggy, man. The mosquitoes up there in the spring are. Just think about going into, bear country in the spring.
Yeah.
You're in bear country basically.
Yeah.
there's pictures online of the TAC crew in Vermont, and they're all wearing mosquito nets.
Oh God!
Wow.
And my buddy just went up there. He did Vermont. He said it wasn't that. He took his family. It wasn't that bad at all. But when I went, it was really, really buggy.
Right.
So just imagine getting surrounded by mosquitoes in the middle of your shot.
Just like seagull hunting, man.
Hey, you're not kidding.
When I went down there and did that, I was wearing a mosquito net the whole time. All I was thinking was, how am I going to shoot with this thing on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool because like each. So what did we do? We did 1, 2. Hold on.
Just a side note, while I was
3 and
looking
4.
at that. So we went to Montana, Whitney and I, just to ski. And I'm in pretty good shape. And we got up to the top of the mountain, like our first ride up. And I'm like trying to strap my snowboard in. And I was dying
kidding.
up there from the elevation change. I
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
oh my God. It is
It's-
crazy.
It is big time difference.
I did not realize how much it really affects you. Because, like, you know, like the Poconos, it's not.
No.
You're not getting winded from the elevation, right?
You
You're just
can
getting
get-
winded from the hiking.
We were at 3,000 feet average, but those guys felt the thinner air. I mean, just that 3,000 foot from here.
Right.
I mean, you'll feel that thinner air in your lungs. But you start talking about 10,000
Yeah.
feet, 12,000 feet. When I went elk hunting, I trained for a year, almost a little more than a year, to get ready for that thing.
Right.
And our first hike in 9 miles, backpacking in, we were at like 9,000 feet before we were going to go up to 11, and I was smoked.
Right.
Just because of the thin air.
Yeah.
And you will constantly have that thumping in your, like I was telling you, when you work out real hard cardio and you get that thumping in your temples.
Yeah.
The thin air just creates that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was like, we were in Big Sky, and I was literally, the first night we got there, I was just pushing the suitcases into the hotel, and we got into the room. I was like, holy shit, man. My God.
I've been there, dude. Walking up some steps, and you're like, God damn, dude, I'm such a shitty person.
It was bad. And then, like, you know, like, it's really thin air, so like even sleeping at night, like, it completely dries you out because of how thin it is. I was like, this is wild.
Yeah, I've heard that people going out like in that real high elevation just randomly get nosebleeds and stuff.
Oh, there's elevation sickness. It's very, very. You got to keep that in mind when you're out hunting or out west or even skiing. I mean, I've had friends that have just went on trips out west and got elevation sickness, and they're almost not able to function.
Right.
And then they come down elevation a couple thousand feet, and they're perfectly normal.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, she went out to it was Colorado. I forget which town it was, with her dad to ski, and she got elevation sickness, and it was like they had already been there like 3 or 4 days, you know, and it just, for whatever reason, it just randomly hit her that day. But it's like you said, as soon as you come down, you're fine.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Bo, I took him turkey hunting up in West Virginia to give him a little taste of the mountains.
Dude, let me tell you something. When I come back to Maryland, if I heard a turkey gobble 6 miles away, my ass closed the distance quick. Because them Appalachian mountains were no joke. I have never. I mean, that was just scouting. We'd have to walk up these freaking mountains, and oh god, you had to lean. If you didn't lean as forward as possible, your ass was going to go all the way back down to the bottom.
That's steep.
On accident.
You're like bear crawling up the mountain.
Oh, dude, it was. I was sore. I was so
He
sore.
came right
Good
back.
for you, man.
Came right back, killed a turkey. He was like, "Man, that was easy."
I'm telling you, man. Take a boy from West Virginia and put him on Maryland. He's gonna be a fast motherfucker.
Did you encounter any rattlesnakes while you were there? No. Do they have many? They gotta have rattlers out there.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
My biggest fear is a copperhead, man. I grew up in West Virginia, and I didn't move to the Eastern Shore till I was 13 years old. So it was a complete change in how to hunt and everything like that. But man, the copperheads were always your scare because they don't make any noise, and they are the best camouflage snake I've ever seen.
Yeah, I saw my first one like up in Wilmington, up in like, you know, some of the rocky parts of Wilmington, and they blend right in, dude. You can easily
scary.
just get nicked by one.
No, but we did have forest fires while we were in West Virginia. It was
a lot. So you got Onax, right?
Yeah.
You have Onax? It'll show the little fire symbols all over Onyx where there's forest fires.
Oh, really?
You get in the hot of the summer, just like look on Onyx and just look around the United States. You'll see them all popped up.
You go
There was a
out
lot out there.
Well, it was a weird spring, so it was super, super dry. The riverbeds were dry, and it was like 80, almost 90 degrees when we were up there in April, like April 19th, and there was forest fires. And we left a little early because it started moving in closer to kind of the area we were at. And when we hiked the one mountain, we went down in that little flat. Remember how it felt like it was almost ready to set on fire. The heat was
really?
the heat reflecting off the leaves and just how dry it was. I was like, this isn't good.
Yeah,
Right,
dude. All
right.
it takes is like some hillbilly up here just to throw out a cigarette that's still lit. And
Yeah. Oh, it was so
Yeah, it's
dry.
crazy. That's what scares me about. I've never done one, but like doing people that do the control burns, like on food plots and stuff. Like if
yeah.
you don't prep the edges, like they get away from you real quick. You know what I mean? And, like,
that shit catches.
yeah,
especially
like
with
that's
the wind.
what I mean. Like again, I've never done it because I don't have the opportunity to do it. But my butthole would be puckered the whole time, dude. I would be so worried about that.
Oh, yeah.
The two things about TAC is, so you guys were shooting for fun, but can you shoot the courses for prizes?
So no, they don't have. They don't have any prizes for like the courses.
Okay.
It's all the prizes are down at the base camp or whatever. The vendor village is what they call it, and that's
Right.
where all the novelty shoots are. You're really. It's literally a challenge for you and your buddies, your family to go up there, have a good time, challenge yourself with your bow. Their whole
You're
motto-
hiking and launching arrows with your
it's-
buddies.
it's
That's
so
pretty much
fun.
what it is.
Their whole motto is life's better with the bow.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
it really caters to everybody, even families. You know.
Right. We gotta go Mason next year. We'll do it. We'll do an upper mid
A
podcast.
lot of shooting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna show up with what I got, bro.
The vendors down there were awesome too.
Started
Like,
at 30 yards.
we who was it? Cutter stabilizers.
Yeah.
Like, there was some faces and product down there that we've never seen before, and like there was this one stabilizer company that was really, really neat. So like they had a bracket on the bottom of their bow that, and all you could get an attachment for all in one. It was a kickstand and a stabilizer, and when you wanted to pull your bow up or something like that, you just, I don't know, what was it? Just a little locking mechanism. You loosen it up and you pull your stabilizer in. So when you're pulling it up the tree, it's not hitting nothing. And I mean,
That is
that
really
was, and it was like real light. And
Did you buy one?
no,
Come on,
I
man.
wanted to.
Come on.
I actually spent all my money on mountain ups.
If I'm going out there, I'm going out there with a bunch of money because I'm blowing it in the vendor village.
It's so much fun shopping.
Next-
Dude, it is
Next
fun
year, I'm
shopping,
definitely
man.
doing that. And
It's
if I don't
so
blow
awesome.
it there, it's going to go to them
Novelty
to them
shoots.
novelty
novelty,
shots.
yeah.
I can never remember what that's called.
So for the tech guys out there, for the gear junkies, what is your full setup?
So I'm just shooting a Matthews bow. I always shoot a drop away rest. So I use a vapor trail rest.
Okay.
And a lot of guys, there's so many different rests out there, but I think your biggest benefit is to have a dial sight.
Okay.
I personally use a 3-pin. The reason I like using those is for hunting scenarios. So if I've got my 20, 30, 40 at all times, my bottom pin is what I call my floater pin. So if I dial anything over 40, if I go down to 50, 60, 70, my 20, 30, then so if I dial down to 60, my pin above that will be 50, my other pin above that will be 40.
Gotcha.
It makes it a perfect scenario for yourself so that if
Right.
a deer bumps out on you and you have all 3 pins, and deer hunting 20, 30, 40 is usually going to get it done.
Right.
You're hunting out west now. When I went antelope hunting, they're so fast, they'll bump out to 60 on you from 30 like that.
Right.
Super fast. So, you can dial to 50 or dial to 60 or whatever, but then still have your 20, 30, 40. And that's how I like to use
Okay.
it. I didn't see myself using that a ton at TAC. I never really have. Sometimes you will. But a dial sight is huge. I use a black gold 3-pin. It's the Ascent Verdict.
Okay.
3-pin. A lot of guys are into the Ultra View stuff. Ultra View's huge with TAC.
Right.
They're using basically an HHA dial base and then putting a UV scope.
Right.
The UV scopes are really small in diameter, and
That's
it
going to
gives
be
you,
my next purchase.
yeah, Bo's ate up with them, so they give you a lot more clearance.
Gotcha.
I feel like a small scope, whether it be UV or any other sight, the landslides are really popular.
Right. Is there anybody out there shooting that new? I think it's literally just called dialed.
Yes, lots of dialed.
Yeah.
Yep, the guy
They're supposed to
AJ that won that truck, he shoots dialed.
Yeah, they're supposed to be awesome.
Yeah, they're really nice sights.
Yeah, I shoot such an old bow though, because everybody uses that dovetail mount now for all their sights, and I don't have that. I'm shooting like a Matthews.
There's
from
brackets though.
like
So
1990.
Yeah.
the bracket. So my HHA was a dovetail, and it goes into the Matthews, but they all come with brackets so that you can mount it to.
I got you.
Yeah. So Bo's perfect example. We set him up with it with the HHA and just put the bracket on, and it was perfect.
That was the other thing. I've never shot with a what's it called? A back stabilizer?
Oh, rear stabilizer.
stabilizer.
Yeah.
Kicks off to the back.
Never, dude. Once I put that on, I've never felt so stable. Like technically, the more weight on your bow, if I'm correct, you're going to be more stable.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
and you needed that. You needed that out there big time.
What a lot of that does is, so think about it. You've got your sight that sticks out the front of your bow. You got a front stabilizer that sticks out the front of your bow. So you have all this front weight.
Right.
So when you come back to full draw, that rear stabilizer gives you a little back weight to help you just level everything out, so that through your shot everything kind of stays stable. I learned from Andy Farrow about a rear stabilizer. He's a heck of a boat. He used to do archery tech work and all that. He's working down at Schrader's, but he really taught me just a lot about archery years ago. Helped me build arrows and tune my bow, back in the day. And I got to give him a lot of credit for that, because it got me interested in building my own arrows and getting more in tune with, with working on my own bow and stuff like that. I still text him, hey man, what do you think of this? I'm having issues.
Yeah, I'd like to get to the point where I'd have a nice setup to be able to like tweak things and work on things. It's just like
Absolutely.
I do
I
too.
don't have the space or the
I do
time,
too. Like like having like a little, like at least just the stuff to like make it. Because all you really got to do is just buy a jig, buy your shafts, your glue. Mm-hmm. Whatever that thing is, you sit there and spin your arrows on, make sure they're spinning true, and stuff like that. Like I mean, obviously your arrows aren't going to be the best the first dozen you make, but definitely think it's something that I would want to get into.
Yeah, my dad used to make like traditional bows. So when I was a kid, he would make long bows and recurves. He would carve them out and everything, and he would buy strings to put on them, and then he would build his arrows, literally just wooden arrows, and then he would fletch them with turkey feathers and use he would make stone points for them and stuff. And he shot a lot of different animals with it. He shot a lot of pheasants and rabbits and shot a couple deer with it. So he was like really into that. I remember there's a couple pictures of me as a kid, like a little tiny kid sitting on his lap as he had the arrow in whatever that spins them, and he was painting them with fingernail polish and stuff, painting designs on them. So it's always been like interesting to me. I just don't have the
time and
means
space.
of the time. If like our next house, hopefully I'll have like a sweet ass man cave.
Right. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Put a workbench in there or something. It'd be pretty sweet.
The technology available now. I mean, I also got to give a lot of credit to Mike. Our buddy Mike Briscoe. He's a magician with bows too.
He's a genius.
He's a magician with everything he touches. But the technology nowadays, like I remember as a kid, if I wanted to figure something out, I was reading hunting article magazines. Like I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have podcasts. I didn't have any of that. I'm kind of aging myself a little bit, but that's how you would figure something out. Or reading about fishing, and still this day love books, but the technology to figure out how to,
you can't keep up with it.
You just you can't.
It's tough, man.
You could watch a YouTube video on anything, and basically figure it out once you get the stuff you need.
And it's almost getting to the point where it's like overwhelming. Like it's too much information.
Because you don't know what's right.
Too much product.
You don't know what's right. You don't know what's wrong. You don't know what's better than the other.
Everybody's got a different opinion about every little product and every little thing. It's like
your best bet's finding someone like we know, Mike, that's been through trial and error with so many things.
Right.
He's got
You
the
know,
time.
and you know, if that's the best thing.
Yeah. And what poundage are you shooting?
So we're all shooting about 70 pounds.
70?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm like 64.
Yeah, 67.
That's what
Everybody's
that
shooting
was
your
my
standard poundage. Yeah, so it's not, you don't really have to dial back your bow
Right.
or really pump it up for shooting long range. I mean, it really, the tuning aspect of getting your bow tuned and like I said, all the little micro adjustments, getting that all dialed in, and you can shoot anybody can shoot 100 yards if you've got someone to sit there and kind of just coach you through a couple things.
Right.
And just tune your bow a little bit. You can do it.
I can tell you right
definitely
now.
do it.
Everyone punches the trigger.
Right.
You've done it.
Oh, I just sure did.
You've done it.
Oh, yeah.
We've all done it. Punching a trigger, you know, at a distance like that, your arrow is not going to go where it wants.
Right.
And that is, I swear, that is the biggest thing down there. When I was shooting and I really focused on squeezing through and everything felt smooth, my arrow was beautiful. But you know, you get into that moment, and we both shoot a UV button. I got mine set really hot. That way, if I do punch, you know, it's might not move as much. You know,
Right.
everything might not be as drastic as
Right.
as what it could be. But dude, when you sit there and just easily squeeze, you're just floating around that target, man. Everything feels so great.
It comes back to the whole when we were kids and Daddy was sitting there with you and your BB gun and he's like squeeze,
Right.
squeeze.
Right.
Yeah.
That you have to keep that in your brain even when it comes to shooting a bow.
Right.
I mean, because even if you're shooting a rifle, if you start shooting long range, if you punch that trigger, if you're moving,
So,
all the micro adjustments or micro mistakes will.
so here's an example. When I was shooting, I had like a week to really prepare for all this when they set my bow up, and I was shooting every day before we went up there, and I was videoing myself. That's a great thing to do. Sit there and video, you know, your face side while you're shooting, and I would feel like, you know, the inside of my thumb was on the trigger, and all of a sudden I would go like that, and every one of my arrows out past 40 were going right. Every one of them. So I sent it to Mike, and I was like, "Yo, all my arrows are going right. Is this something that I'm doing?" And he was like, "Dude, you're punching the shit out of it. That's why."
Right.
He was like, "Don't change your sight or nothing like that." And, you know, so I mean, it just, and that's at 40.
Right.
You know, 40, 50 yards, and it was moving like 5-6 inches
Yeah.
to the right. You know, it's just that little bit of torque on that string. You know, when it's not, you know, it's just how it is.
Yeah, it's getting tough. I think I talked about it with when we had Hunter on with you. The older I get, the worse my target panic gets for whatever reason. It's like the last couple of years, I've been really
shoot a
struggling
lot?
with it. I do, but I don't shoot enough because like right now I should be shooting, right? You should be shooting all summer. I usually start like end of July, August, you know, and then like every day I'm out there shooting, you know, however many arrows. But like I'll be so good, I'll feel good, everything's set good, I'll be dialed in, I'm right on it. And then instead of just like, because I shoot just a traditional like finger trigger release, and I know that like in my head I'm like, just squeeze that thing, but every time I'm like
Yep.
like that, you know, and like I just cannot. It's the hardest thing to break yourself
And
off
the worst
that
is
target
when
panic.
you anticipate, so you mentally shoot, but you don't.
Right.
And everything moves, and you freaking miss the whole target. I mean, that happened to me down here at one of them targets.
Oh yeah, yeah. The best thing for that, I mean, is just give yourself some kind of pressure, you know,
Right.
to help you with that target panic. You know, put something in the way of the target so that you really have to focus, or you're gonna hit like you know,
Right.
you're gonna hit something, or even do some little like cardio before you shoot. Get your heart rate up, and then that'll make you focus. Because then you'll be moving all over the place. But if you settle in and start squeezing on that trigger. I mean,
Right.
I switched from I shot trigger forever I shot a trigger, and again, Andy Farrow was like shooting this thumb, or he was shooting a hinge, or you know,
Right.
and he shoots so accurate, and I was like, I started talking about it, and I got into using a thumb button, because he said that's your best way to get introduced to shooting something like that. And
Right.
all of your really good archers, shooters, they like to shoot him. Cam still shoots his trigger.
Right.
You know, he still shoots a wrist release.
Yeah.
It's all for whatever works best for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just because you have a thumb button or
It
a
doesn't-
hinge does
no.
not mean you're a better shooter than the next.
No, not at all.
We've all shot freaking baby groups with the old traditional stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you what, one thing that I don't do it as much, and I need to, but when I used to shoot way more than I do now, I used to go right up to the target, and obviously when I pull back and everything, I'd make sure my pin's where it needs to be, and I would close my eyes and just focus on the squeezing and let it surprise me. And you do that a bunch. I actually used to take my girlfriend's hairbrush and had like one of her where there's big headbands, whatever, and I would it was real thin, so I could put it inside my clip on my thumb button, and I pull back and just close my eyes and just easily squeeze because there's tension on it.
Right.
No pull. Like, that's a good way to practice.
You built like a little shot trainer.
Yep,
Yeah.
constantly make yourself surprised. Now, of course, when you do that, you got to make sure you're not gripping
Right.
at the end. You know, there's a lot of things that come into it, but that alone, if you're able to squeeze through your shot, you're gonna be really, really well.
You can
off.
build one of those little shot trainers with some string at the end of the day, and then just practice in your truck at work or wherever. I mean,
Right.
just practice.
How many
like
times
you
have you
said.
shot at a deer, right? And you were dead nuts, 25 yards, and it hits a little higher left than where you're aiming. You're like, man, I was right on it. Like, it died. You found it. Or maybe shot a little bit back. You're like, dude, I was right on it. Don't realize, especially in the moment, but it's probably because you went,
Right.
you know,
Jerk
and
the
you're
trigger
working
or
it.
rushing
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's the problem. Is like now I got it in my head that I've got a little bit of target panic. So like when I'm in the backyard, like I can usually by the end of my set I can get it under control and I'm shooting good. But then that first deer of the year when I'm drawn back and I'm like, oh god, don't fuck this up. Do not fuck this up.
Yeah.
Fuck it up.
Exactly. I mean, I haven't lost one. I mean, I shot one this past year that went a long ways, but it wasn't a terrible shot. But that one was also because, like, you know, in your backyard, you practice standing up. I was shooting off a bucket on the ground.
yeah.
You know,
It's all
that was,
different.
that was completely different.
Another thing that I forgot to mention, you guys had to remind me about this, and it was causing some of my arrows to go different places. When we were at that elevation, pull back. So say your target is, 60 yards, but you're looking way down at it. Pull back straight, like the target's in front of you. Get your anchor points, and then go down. Because if you, whatever the reason is, when you go to that directly to that angle, nothing's the way it is for the way that you sighted your bow in and stuff
It
like
changes.
that. Everything changes.
It changes what they call in the archery world your anchor point.
Right.
So it's good practice to even do that in deer stand too. You know, draw your bow back straight and then tilt down on them. You don't want to be moving a whole lot. You know,
Right.
you might get busted by a doe, but just make sure you got that anchor point in the exact same spot.
You're not always going to be
before
able
you
to
start
do it. But
dipping way down on a deer at a deer
Right.
stand.
at least at a distance, it made it. That's
I've
another
shot-
thing that I learned.
I've
on
shot
that.
deer where I wasn't even looking through my peep sight. I mean, I had the string back. It was back by my ear, like not even up by my mouth, and I'm just just completely excited in the moment, and missed.
Yep.
And I'm
know
like,
that.
in the moment, I'm like, oh, what did I do? And then you're like, oh, I know. My ear's bleeding. Or whatever,
Yeah.
So,
I
it's
mean,
hard.
since we're on the deer hunt, we might as well get into it. You got to tell the story of the drop time buck
Oh, man.
because that thing is beautiful.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was years ago. I mean, I killed that thing in 2017, and I've killed some nice deer in my life, and they're all huge trophies, but they're 120-inch deer. I had a 130-inch deer, 13 point. I killed on public down in Redden when I used to live down in Delaware, and when I started hanging out up here, even before I met my wife, I had some really nice properties that I got in on. One was over in Middletown, and killed a nice 9 point off of that. Well, then years later, I got in on a farm here locally, and it was like a Jurassic Park. And those that know where it's at know exactly what it produced. And there was just monster deer in the area.
Right.
It was 900 acres, and it wasn't managed nowhere near how it could have been or should have been, but it was kind of to the respect of the farmer, and it had good ag, but it was also highly used for goose hunting and stuff like that. And I hunted it for 3 years and did not shoot one deer. I'd see 6-7 different bucks, and had saw in like the early season in velvet some monsters, and would always just kind of hold out. And I always used to say, like, if it's not bigger than what's on my wall, I'm not going to shoot it.
Right.
Well, it was I hunted the rut, passed on some nice deer in the rut, and I had to stand in this little island of woods, and the deer, they're kind of habitual. They love to have some kind of cover, when they go out to a field, or they're checking scrapes. So, especially a mature buck will like to use that cover to, check his scrapes. And you may not even go to that scrape, but he's just going to downwind check it and use cover and have quick access to escape or whatever. So I had set up on a really good spot just off of bedding, and I was talking to 2 different buddies of mine on where I was hunting. The wind was perfect, and it did not have any schedule changes. And sure enough, I'm in the stand an hour in, started seeing deer. This wind did a 180-degree turn right towards bedding. I immediately got down out of my stand. Now, mind you, all the deer that are on my wall have all been killed, but the 13 point are all off the ground.
Wow.
I'm a
With a
huge.
bow?
No. I've killed 2 of them with bow.
Okay.
The drop time was a gun hunt, a shotgun.
Okay.
And but I used to read and have been infatuated with Chuck Adams. I mean, you guys know about Chuck Adams, I'm sure. And I read about how he hunts because he was so successful, and he did it all on the ground,
Right.
with a bow to that point, Well, this wind changed, and I get out of my stand immediately and went over to this island, but I had deer already out. I mean, this place would always have 20, 30 deer out in the fields already, whatever.
Right.
So I get set up in the edge of this island with a good wind, with anticipations that the bigger deer are going to move, and they're going to come in, and I'll be in good shape and be on the ground. Again, it was a gun hunt, but so I'm sitting there, and it got later in the evening, and there was a younger buck that had came out, and this is December 1st, by the way.
Okay.
So I started getting more bucks on camera and decided to hunt this because, the weather, everything was lining up. And December 1st has also produced a lot of daylight buck activity for me and my history. There's like that last group of younger does, I guess, are coming into estrus, and they're kind of out trying to find that. So I had this buck, push a doe across the field, and I was pretty excited about it. And it was getting late, but I was also like hunting. So
Right.
I was gonna shoot something that night, even if it was a doe, because you have to thin out your does, And so at that point, it was dwindling down, and I put my binoculars up, and I just start doing some scanning. I'm a big believer, and you should always use your binoculars when you're deer hunting or sick of deer hunting, whatever it might be. Constantly scan with your binoculars, because they're going to help you see things that your naked eye will definitely not see.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, to that point, I start scanning, and I go across to this hedgerow, and all I see is tips of antlers, and I'm like, oh. But this is also, mind you, this is 300 yards across the field, and I've got minimal time before its shooting light is over.
Right.
So now the hunter in me is like, okay, what's he doing? What is he going to go do?
Right.
And I had all these does off to my east, and that younger buck had pushed that doe, and I'm like watching his tips of his antlers. I couldn't see him because the field had like a hump to it, and I was on the lower side of it, and he's working from the west to the east, and he's doing it at a pretty good pace, and I'm like, man, He's big. I don't know what exactly he is, but I'm gonna make a move on him.
Right.
So I drop everything that I've got, not a lot, but my little pack, and I had a seat. So I dump all of that, take minimal stuff, binos, rangefinder, the gun, and I started belly crawling across this field on a diagonal path to cover ground to get into range. So here I go, and I didn't spook any deer. I make this belly crawl, and ever so often I would tuck my knees underneath of me and slowly pop up, put my glass on him, see where he's at. So the third time I did that, I probably covered 70 yards on the belly crawl, and I pop my knees under me and I go up to look and I don't see him. But I did see something to my left, like directly to my west. Well, it was him. He's coming directly towards, like right at me. And that's when I saw the drop tine. It's like 7.5-inch drop tine. Then I start seeing all these stickers, and I'm just, now my heart rate's like through the roof. So I can't move, but I'm kind of in a bad spot. Right. So I found there was a tractor rut that I had, was like, well, that's perfect. I can use that as a rest and kind of as a profile cover. Right. So I belly crawl over this tractor rut and get settled right down behind it and put my gun up on it. This thing walks to 22 yards.
Oh my God.
And was just, dude, it was the most picture perfect thing in the world. He come, and I had to wait because he's on that crest. And once he comes down below that, I let him have it, man. It was awesome.
Man, the fact that all worked out, incredible.
Yeah, I mean that,
dude. Normally, shit like that doesn't happen, especially on a deer like that.
Well, and like I said,
what will go wrong, or what can go wrong, will go wrong.
Yeah, I mean the other deer that I've killed on the ground. I mean, it's just I killed my sicko on the ground with a bow.
Really?
Yeah,
in the frag.
Sure did.
In the frag?
Yeah. Wow. No, not he was. I was in a little pine grove, or like a little island. But there was some real short grass out where they would come out and feed, and there was some mosquito ponds and stuff. But again, I was taught, you hunt sick deer almost kind of like you hunt elk or you hunt turkeys. You be aggressive. They don't care about the noise because they are super noisy.
Right. Yeah.
And I hunted him on the ground, and I challenged him, and he came barreling towards me and just kept using cover and trees, and ended up setting up nice and tight. And I growled at him when he got into 50 yards, and that sent him over the edge. And
I've heard that
he came into, I think it was 18 yards, and I punched him right through the heart, and that sicker ran 92 yards punched through the heart. And I was so devastated because I got on a little bit of blood. My arrow was soaked perfect blood, and I'm like, oh no. And I just waited, and then probably a half hour later, I was like, all right, I heard a loud crash like moments after I'd shot him.
Right.
But I went in and I started tracking about a half hour later, and dude, it was 92 yards, but it wasn't that far because it was all open. It wasn't, thankfully, a bunch of frag.
Right.
But I had droplets of blood until the last 10 yards, and then it just opened up. But he was piled up right in this little ditch.
I wonder if it's just because they run so fast, it doesn't have a chance to drop. Doesn't have a chance for a lot of blood to flow out.
I don't know if it's that
because of the pace.
Their hair's really nappy and coarse, maybe too. And
that makes sense.
What kind of bow did you shoot?
I shoot a sever.
Really?
Yeah, I shoot a sever now. I used to shoot muzzies forever.
Yep. Right.
And I loved muzzies. And then I went over to the Montex for G5s.
Yeah.
So I shot my first deer with.
That's what I shot that sicka with.
Really?
Yep. And a lot of my friends out west all have shot those G5s. They still do. Those and muzzies, that's all they shoot. But a lot of them, one of my buddies, you guys will have to look up Spook Creek Outdoors. They're out in South Dakota. My buddy Clay, he's a killer, man, but he swears by those severs. And I shot a deer this year with it, and I showed so many people it looked like I shot it with a 30-06. I shot it with a 1/4 and away shot and hit that opposite shoulder, and I mean, it was devastating.
Blew it apart.
And then, well, you met Johnny Mulligan. Johnny Mulligan's a huge figure in the outdoor industry. Johnny Utah. And
Is that the dude that's jacked?
yeah,
He's huge.
yeah, dude, I'm telling you, he's
Look at him in person.
he's a killer as well, and he shoots those severs, and dude, he raves about them. And he's getting ready to go out and do he's going to Big Chino in Arizona for a velvet elk hunt here at the end of the month.
Nice.
And I was like, "Are you going to shoot anything different?" He's like, "Dude, absolutely not. Like everybody that's shooting elk with these severs are."
He says he goes down a quarter inch, doesn't he?
He'll shoot his like muleys and whitetail, and same with my buddies in South Dakota. They'll shoot those 2 inchers or inch and 3/4. But they said that it's not a bad idea to step down to like an inch and a half when you're shooting bigger game to get that more penetration.
Okay, I was just about to ask why, but yeah, that makes sense.
But the technology behind the severs I was showing Bo it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear you say that because that's what I asked for Father's Day, and that's coming up this weekend. So
Yeah, man.
I'm really hoping Waylon got them for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a name it, Waylon.
Yeah, man.
Come on, man. Come through one time.
Is he old enough to buy you broadheads?
Good point.
That's
but
awesome.
yeah, they do look awesome. I've heard a lot of good things about them,
Yeah,
so that's
man.
why I sent my wife that. But yeah, hopefully, because I've shot NAP Spitfires forever,
Oh,
and
they're
I've
good.
loved them.
Yeah.
You know, I've never had any issues with them opening or anything like that. But I've heard such good things about the Severs. I was like, well, might as well try them.
Yeah, I wouldn't, if it wasn't coming from some really good sources, I would never have switched away from a fixed blade,
Right.
me personally.
Yeah. I don't get into the fixed blade, expandable argument that a lot of people get into
yeah.
because I've seen what both can do, and
It's all about what you want.
right, it's like
It's shot placement.
yeah.
That goes back to the Chuck Adams thing. 226 record book animals, 29 Pope and Young animals, all done with a bow and fixed blade.
Yeah.
I think aluminum arrows.
right
For a lot
dude,
of it.
aluminum arrows. Wow.
I mean, he did. When he did his Super Slam with a bow. That was all with super old school technology, like big like fingers, like aluminum arrows, like.
Yeah.
So it I don't think it matters as long as you're making a really good shot. Like you're gonna be fine.
Right. I think a lot of guys that shoot the fixed blades, they like to shoot a little further forward, and you can punch through some bone with a fixed blade
yeah.
rather
Iron
than
will.
rather than an expandable where
Yeah.
you kind of have to be a little bit more precise. But again, to each their own because I don't care.
Yeah,
whatever
absolutely.
gets it done.
Hey, here's
right.
my thing. If you got a 2-inch expandable and you're a little far back or a little low or a little high,
You're cutting
you know,
stuff.
that could make or break a dead animal. That's just my opinion. That's personally why I'll never go to a fixed.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're dead nuts every time,
Yeah,
it don't matter what you use.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. Indians used stone points for
Yep.
Arrowheads,
a
right?
long time. So obviously, fixed blades work.
Exactly.
So how many different animals have you killed? Do you know? Yeah, off the top of your head?
Man, I have attempted antelope and came back tag soup. I have attempted elk, came back tag soup. So for me, it's just been turkeys, deer, sick of deer, and a massive amount of squirrels and rabbits.
Were the elk and antelope, was that over the counter, or did you?
Yes, it was. No, the antelope was a draw in South Dakota.
Okay.
The elk was a Colorado OTC.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you go with an outfitter?
No, I did not.
Did it by yourself?
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Me and a buddy of mine. He's local now. He was from PA, and I had planned on going either way,
right.
but we had met and talked, and he was like, "I'm going." He's like, "You should come with us," and I was like, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
And we were all covered up in elk, and it's
That's
just
awesome.
yeah. The success rates, it's for us to not get to go scout and really have a lot of that, and it's all public land, it's tough,
Right.
Speed goats, that's just a different level, man. We could talk a whole nother podcast on just hunting speed goats, and it's man, they are fast.
Yeah.
That's why they have their
a
name.
rifle or a bow?
That was bow.
Yeah, that's really
Tell
tough.
them about the foot story.
Oh man, do we have time for that?
Yeah, go ahead. Whatever.
So went to South Dakota. my buddy, so the brothers, Clay and Cody, they born and raised out there. My buddy Hayden, he's actually coming here in 2 weeks. He's bringing his wife, and he's going to come shoot some snakeheads. And
Nice.
she's never been to the East Coast. It's going to be
Eats
fun.
him up, man.
Oh man, yeah.
Shut up.
I know.
They'll fit.
That's another podcast.
Flip this table, man. Easy, back on.
We got we only have a few days. Maybe we'll get fishing with Bo too. We'll see. We'll see.
You have to sit on
But,
his lap on his kayak.
I ain't showing you bow fishermen in my spots.
So I don't do that. But long story short, the one brother, they're born and raised out there, and he'd never, even up to that point, had killed an antelope with a bow.
Wow.
And he and Clay had killed a couple. They'd all killed them with gun. So
Right.
anyway, go out there, fly out, we get all set up, meet the guys, we go scouting, and there's just antelope everywhere. They're like squirrels, like to us. Like it's just, or whitetails, I guess
Right.
you would say. You just see them everywhere you go. Yeah. And they had some private land, and we got up the next day and had a really good spot. And the whole thing going is it's hot out there, and the best meat that you could ever have. I love antelope. It's delicious, but you gotta. They say kill them in their beds, because if they go getting a bunch of adrenaline in them and running, they can be not so good very quickly. So
Wow.
the whole saying is, kill them in their beds, try not to get them running, all like that. So
Right.
we get set up, and everything is spot and stalk, and with a decoy. So
Right.
you have a decoy you can put on the front of your bow. It's it like Velcro attaches to it, and you got a window that you can look through.
You're reaping them, man.
And then you have,
Yeah.
you're basically reaping them. And then you have like a full body, collapsible decoy that you'll just hold up above your head, and they'll see that, and they'll just come running across like a 1,000 acre field just on a full sprint, which probably takes them like 2 seconds.
Even if they're already in a big group.
So what happens is you'll get a buck all by himself, and that's like your perfect example, like your perfect scenario.
Right.
So you'll find this like lonesome buck, and you'll put that decoy up, and he'll come running, because he's
Wow.
like, oh, there's another antelope. They love community.
Right.
And when they're rutting, they're just doing all kinds of stuff. But you give them that little challenge too with like a younger one, like they'll bear down, and their hair will
Really?
stand up. They'll come challenge you and try to push you out. Well,
It's pretty cool.
we got set up that morning, and they were all huddled up, and a couple of them were still bedded, and there was this huge haystack, bales, and so we kind of made our approach right behind that and had good wind, and he my buddy Cody slid the decoy out from behind all the hay bales and presented it, and then slowly pulled it back in, and this beautiful buck just started walking right straight towards us. Now up on the hill, everybody was setting up on the hill with their spot and scopes and binos, watching the whole thing go down, videoing it. It was perfect. He comes right in. My buddy's he's 46 yards, and I was like, oh, I got that.
Right.
Absolutely. Draw my bow back, lean out from behind the haystacks, and put it right on him. Now, windy, very windy. This whole trip was super, super windy. And I let the arrow fly. He jumped the bowstring, but moved so fast that he took off and darted off. But when he darted off, he kind of did a 180 back in the line of where the arrow was going. And he just went yoop, and my arrow went thump, right into his front leg.
Wow.
Actually, it was his hoof, and you hear that smack, and he did head over heels tumble, and we're all I was like, I missed him. And he was like, oh no, you didn't. And he's like, look in your binos, he's bleeding out. And I was like, what? You just saw his blood going everywhere.
Wow.
But he was like, but you hit him in the foot. And I was like, oh, no way. So he takes off and just immediately beds up. And we're all bummed out. And so we're like, we just got to back out. So we go back up. While we go meet the guys at the truck, a bigger buck comes right into the same area, alfalfa, that we were just hunting. So we switch roles. I do the decoy. Cody gets his bow. And we go down and put a belly crawl over to this other one, and I'm decoying for him, and he's just over this crest of this hill. We go over there, and he like center punches this speed goat. Off it goes in the same direction that mine went, and we're so excited. We're high-fiving, everything's good, we're super pumped, and this thing just runs and runs and runs and stops and just stands there.
Wow.
Well, then it takes off 90 degrees to the west and goes sprinting across the alfalfa field to this huge group and just starts chasing antelope. Didn't fall over, nothing. And we're like, what happened? So the day goes, we take like a couple hours of just sitting and watching mine, shot in the foot, his running around chasing antelope, and we're really like picking our heads like, what is going on? So we make a game plan. His is still up. Just, dude, his legs were red. Like, his whole chest was red, his legs were red. We're like, we have no idea, like, what's going on. We kept trying to set up the tripod and the spot and scope to see where he'd hit him, but you couldn't see because it was all so red or whatever. So we gave it like 3 or 4 hours and made a game plan, and I ended up belly crawling 300 yards. It took 3 hours through a prairie dog town. And prairie dog towns are known to be filthy with rattlesnakes. And we had killed probably 3 or 4 rattlesnakes just on the drive out to like different spots in the first 2 days we were there. And all they said was, just be careful of rattlesnakes. Like, you're going through a prairie dog town, like you're probably gonna see a couple. So that's all I could think about. Well, I get my approach on the bedded buck that I had shot in the foot, and I am within 40 yards, draw my bow back down low. As I come up, he stands up and he rolls and just takes off as I'm pulling through my trigger and just completely missed him. So, to wrap this up, I mean, we just continued antelope hunting for the next 3 days and didn't have any success. And his buck was still on the hoof running around the next morning. Wow. And come to find out, we could end up seeing the next morning after things had dried up, he had hit him probably like 1.5 inches low. So he had went right through the chest cavity, but just did not hit any vitals.
Crazy.
And it never did die. Neither one of them did. They saw him for like the next 2 months later.
Somebody probably shot yours and got a free arrow.
Yeah. Well, the arrow wasn't in him. So, it was just thumped his foot and that was it. Just laid there when he picked it up.
That's crazy.
They're so fast, man.
Yeah, my grandfather shot 2, but that was with a rifle, and I'm pretty sure they were hunting over water holes.
Oh, that's the way to do it. I mean, you hunt water and you can really get it done.
Yeah.
I mean,
but they're good to eat.
They're so delicious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I have a vendetta though. I'm gonna kill one with the bow. Like, I'll spend the rest of my...
That's a cool thing to do, to spot and stalk them like that with a bow,
Absolutely.
Because I'd really like to go to the Badlands and do like a mule deer spot and stalk.
Yeah, sick. Dude, mule deer's on my list, obviously. Antelope and an elk. I mean, that's...
Yeah, elk's on my list too. My buddy goes out there every year. Do you know the McCoys? You probably know Gary.
That sounds familiar.
From the group that you hunt with around here, especially with like waterfowl.
There's a lot of guys that have been going. I know Freddie's getting into it, going, and there's a lot of people starting to go now. I mean, my next step is I have family that used to guide years ago out in Wyoming. Okay. And my dream, I took my wife out there on a vacation, and it's like heaven, man. I mean, it's unreal. My dream was to go back there because past family had been there, and the people that still own it still have, they still remember our family, and they're very welcoming to the idea of going out there and elk hunting. And I'd love to shoot my first elk there, but the point system is so far beyond where I could even get. I'm up to 7 points for Wyoming right now, but those units in that area are up to 18. So the point creep will just keep going, and I won't catch up. My only option would be to group hunt with somebody and that's rare.
Right.
But there's other places to go. I talked to somebody at TAC, Bo was there, and I'm going to go do an Arizona elk hunt here in the near future. And I think that's all going to work out pretty good.
Yeah. The draw system, like for points specifically, or the states that require points, it is tough. Like you and I would have to start our kids' point system, start applying for their points right off the jump, you know, for them to be able to hunt at some of these places by the time they're old enough to.
Yeah.
You know, like for us, like for all of us, like most of these places, we're too late. By the time we acquire points, we're probably not even going to be in enough shape to go do some of these hunts, you know?
Well, and it's for a very, very high success area units that have really good quality bulls, you know?
Right.
But the opportunity to go out and elk hunt and kill bulls on public is you can definitely do it. It's very high success rates, you know?
Right.
I mean, you can definitely do it. I mean, me personally, going and doing an outfitter is the best thing, because you can go out, they'll set you up for half the price, and they'll set you up camp, they'll provide the pack out, but you're gonna go hunt by yourself.
Yeah, right.
They're not gonna hold your hand.
Right.
And that's where I'm at with, like, we get 20 miles back where that would take a good while by foot, and packing. You have to pack all your food on your back. You got to have, you got to have enough stuff to go 20 miles and then stay there for 4 or 5 days to find the herd, get everything done, and then shoot it, and then haul all that meat out and say 20 miles. Like, that's where you kind of, and you don't have to go 20 miles. I mean, heck, we got on elk that was 3 or 4 miles off the road, you know what I mean? But again, it's just, I think the biggest tip is if you can get into an outfitter where you can get at least in there in the good area, pay that $2,000 to go have them help with that and help with the pack out. I think it's a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah. And it would be cool to do it on horseback.
That's, I personally.
Not much of a horse rider.
I'm not a huge horse fan, but
it'd be cool.
It would be super cool.
The one hunt that I always suggest to everybody, and I told him, and maybe even you, the Maine moose hunt, highly recommend applying for that every year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do the lottery.
You went and did that.
Yeah, I've done it. I got drawn my first year, but it was for a cow tag, and I went and killed one. And then my dad applied for like 3 years and got drawn for a bull tag and went and killed one. But the non-resident success rate for the draw on the tag is pretty high. So some people have bad luck and you have a long span before you get drawn, but usually you can get drawn pretty quickly, and it's, for what it is, it's a fairly cheap hunt, you know, and there's a lot of, if you get drawn for the right zone, there's a lot of opportunity up there, and it's really cool. So
that would
what
be
do
awesome.
they taste like?
Yeah. What's that?
What do they taste like?
I think a regular beef cow.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I killed that cow there, and she was 600 pounds after we field dressed her, and I think we walked away with like 400 pounds of meat.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
damn,
it's worth it, for a 15-hour drive, and I think the whole hunt, all in all, cost me less than $2,000.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
An OTC elk hunt, like even my Colorado elk hunt, was very affordable. I mean, the time that we drove out, but it's very affordable.
Right.
And again, you just got to put your time in. If you can scout, great. Like, it's a lot of prep and do it all. But that's where that I know a lot of guys are starting to take that $1,200, $2,000, whatever it is, all in all, and just flipping it over and using, like I said, outfitters that offer that opportunity where they help get you back and help with the pack out. I mean, it's really worth it at that point. A lot of the big guys in the outdoor industry, like they're that's kind of like what they're doing,
right?
So, but and then caribou, I would love to do like a caribou hunt with a bow, like a migration hunt where they're like just up in Alaska or something. That would be cool. But again, there's a lot of other things to chase before making that big trek where you're taking a plane in and all that.
My grandfather also did a caribou hunt, and he did it with a bow, and he killed his. And then while they were up there, it was like the last week of the season, and the guide that he was with had a tag. So he let my grandfather, fill his tag. So he walked away with 2 bulls.
That's awesome.
They're pretty cool. They're on his wall. So
Heck yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, cool. I think that about wraps it up. Anybody else got anything to add? Nothing?
I think so.
No more stories? You got to get some of these deer scored by him, man.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Yeah.
They're no record bookers, but
They're still cool.
let's do it.
It's
I
just
definitely
a
got to
deer.
bring that sick deer.
Yeah.
I like to see it.
Yeah, that'd
that'd
be
be
awesome. Absolutely.
Well, cool, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you, Bo, for coming on, too. I know you got to go to work here in a little bit. But, yeah, so good one. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
great meeting you guys.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, again, we're at the Upper Bay Podcast. You find us on Spotify and YouTube. Do all the things. Later.